Welcome to another episode of the MemcycoFM show. Today, we're taking a look at a challenge that, well, it probably keeps many of you up at night. Bank account takeover fraud is a growing global threat, definitely costing financial institutions and customers billions each year. But in this deep dive, we're going to explore how attackers are evolving their tactics and, maybe more importantly, how our defenses can evolve even faster.
That's exactly right. The stakes are, well, they're incredibly high. We're talking everything from customer trust right through to regulatory standing. What's really fascinating here, I think, is how attackers are blending these sophisticated methods, phishing, credential stuffing, mobile malware,
Yeah.
to bypass those traditional defenses. We've gathered insights from looking at a lot of real-world incidents, and we're going to unpack some key examples to show you how a proactive, sort of real-time approach can make all the difference.
Exactly. Our mission today is really to equip you with insights from these specific incidents. We'll examine what happened, how it happened, and crucially, the types of real-time browser level and mobile layer protections that could have, completely changed the outcome. It's about turning those potential vulnerabilities into real opportunities for stronger, more resilient security.
Okay, let's unpack this then with some real-world incidents. Starting with a pretty significant one from Singapore, the OCBC bank phishing scam back in late 2021. This was a really impactful event. I mean, over 790 customers fell victim.
Yeah.
And the total losses exceeded the $13.7 million in just a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The core tactic, as I understand it, with SMS phishing, attackers actually spoofed the bank's sender ID.
Right. Made it look totally legit.
So victims got these incredibly convincing texts, click links, and bang, they're on these super realistic fake websites designed just to harvest their credentials. It was, classic social engineering. But combined with this manufactured sense of urgency, coercing users into putting their sensitive info onto these perfectly mimicked environments. The critical challenge here is that these attacks really leverage human trust, and these perfectly replicated digital facades, traditional defenses, the signature-based ones, often too slow. They rely on catching the victim, not necessarily stopping the fraud up front. So it raises this big question: how do you stop something like this when it relies so much on human interaction and these environments designed to look totally legit?
That really is the crux of it, isn't it? How do you counter an attack that kicks off with a simple text message
Yeah.
and banks on human behavior? What kind of real-time defense is even possible at that, super early stage?
Well, that's exactly where proactive detection and intervention come in. Imagine a system, right? When victims clicked those scam links, it could have immediately popped up a real-time phishing site warning, a big red flag saying, hold on, this isn't the real site. And beyond that, even if they somehow, clicked past that, what if you could render any stolen credentials useless through something like decoy injection? And crucially, disrupting the attack at its source, detecting those spoofed domains, initiating defenses to stop them getting indexed by search engines, cutting off that key distribution channel.
And it's not just about prevention right at the front door, is it? It's also having the capability to, reveal the threat to the customer before they actually lose any money.
Right.
Identifying individual victim identities so you can reach out directly before the fraud happens. That
Yeah.
seems like a game changer.
Exactly. That proactive warning could just stop the whole chain right there.
Okay, let's shift gears. Moving to the U.S. in 2022, we saw a similar but maybe even more technically sophisticated threat with these Chase Bank phishing kits. So here, attackers deployed these kits that just meticulously mimic Chase's login page across multiple domains. What made these particularly nasty was that they were preloaded with scripts designed to bypass basic bot detection, harvest credentials, and even capture MFA tokens, multi-factor authentication tokens, in real time.
Yeah, the tactics there were quite advanced. You had pure website cloning, the use of reverse proxy phishing to completely bypass MFA.
Right, the MFA bypass is key.
It is. And then credential relay straight to the legitimate site. What makes that reverse proxy phishing so insidious is its ability to just sit in the middle. It intercepts and relays everything, even those real-time MFA tokens. So to the legitimate site, it looks just like a normal user logging in.
Wow.
It actively circumvents MFA itself. And if you connect this to the bigger picture, it really shows how attackers are evolving specifically to defeat our layered authentication.
So, okay, if attackers are bypassing MFA in real time like that, what's our counter move? Especially the browser level. How do we stop that man in the middle, the MITM activity, right as it's happening?
Well, this calls for some pretty sophisticated real-time detection. You need systems that can recognize website cloning almost instantly, spot those suspicious login patterns that are, telltale signs of MyTM indicators. Then on the protection side, browser-level decoy credential injection could potentially identify and block those fraud sessions right then and there. And from a disruption point of view, immediate takedown initiation for those clone sites, maybe supported by deception campaigns. That would render them useless pretty quickly. Plus, you get invaluable forensic insight into the attack devices that are actually replaying those stolen credentials.
Okay, now let's look at a global threat, one that really showed the power of mobile exploitation. The FluBot mobile Trojan. This was big in 2021 and 2022. This malware spread, again via SMS, prompting users to install a fake delivery tracking app. Seems plausible, right?
Very plausible. Everyone gets delivery texts.
Exactly. Once it was installed on the phone, it would cunningly overlay fake banking login screens right on top of the real app, harvesting credentials, sending them straight to remote attackers. We saw mass mobile account takeover events linked to FluBot across Europe and APAC.
Yeah, this was a highly effective mobile app phishing overlay attack. It leveraged malware-assisted credential theft, and then attackers used those creds for credential stuffing against loads of different banks. It really highlights the unique challenges of mobile security, that inherent trust users place in their apps, especially ones downloaded from what seem like legit sources. It's easily exploited. Users are kind of conditioned to click install, and once an app's on the device, it often gets significant permissions. It's a stark reminder that our defenses need to extend way beyond just the traditional web browser.
And extending those defenses is precisely what we're talking about. So mobile is clearly a different beast then. How do we push our real-time defenses out to where so many customers are now banking, directly on their phones?
It really comes down to having visibility at the API and device level for mobile logins. If you can detect logins coming from an infected device, you can protect by simply blocking that access.
Right.
For disruption, think about App Store monitoring to flag and help remove these fake delivery apps, stopping further spread. You'd also get identification of those compromised customer devices, so you can do targeted remediation, reach out, help those specific users clean up their phones. And from a preemption angle, things like brute force and credential stuffing detection would kick in before an attacker could even get access to the account via mobile.
Okay, staying in the U.S., let's talk about that wave of Zelle fraud incidents. Swept through U.S. banks from, 2022 to 2023.
That's right.
Here, attackers often exploited social engineering. They'd cleverly trick customers into thinking they were reversing a fraudulent Zelle transfer.
Yeah, the oops, I sent you money by mistake scam or variations on it.
Exactly. But in reality, the victim was unknowingly sending funds directly to the attacker's account. In other cases, it was more straightforward, phishing to get credentials, than initiating Zelle payments directly.
The tactic here was really a combination. Phishing plus that real-time social engineering for what we call authorized push payment or APP-style scams, leading to instant funds transfers. And the critical point here is the sheer speed.
Instantaneous, right?
Absolutely. It means traditional post-fraud detection, often way too late. By the time the bank's systems flag an anomaly, the funds are long gone. It makes prevention absolutely paramount. It's an immediate loss, making that pre-transaction intervention totally essential.
Yeah, that really underlines the urgency. If the transactions are instant, our prevention needs to be even faster. So what's the real-time solution here? What could have actually made a difference in those Zelle scenarios?
Yeah. It's all about spotting those low reputation referrals right from the phishing origins, detecting that the user journey started from a bad place, and imagine being able to apply decoy credential injection again, effectively protecting that session, stopping the attackers before they can even initiate a payment, preventing the fraud entirely.
Yeah.
What's more, having that per-victim visibility will allow the bank to actually reach out to the customer before the transaction completes, giving them a chance to stop it. That capability to reveal the threat to the customer, stop it mid-transaction, that's a potential game changer for APP fraud.
Okay, finally, let's look at a classic, but man, still highly effective attack vector.
Yeah.
The Robinhood credential reuse breach, U.S., 2021. In this incident, attackers basically leveraged credentials stolen from completely unrelated breaches, third-party data dumps.
Right, stuff from years ago sometimes.
Exactly. They then use these reused credentials to access Robinhood accounts, change the linked bank accounts, a critical step, and then siphon the funds. Textbook credential stuffing.
Yeah, the tactics were straightforward but brutally effective. Credential stuffing, account takeover using those reused passwords, and exploiting potentially weak multi-factor enforcement around certain actions. This really emphasizes that even if an organization has MFA, if that initial credential access isn't caught, Or, maybe more critically, if MFA isn't uniformly enforced and tightly integrated across every sensitive action, like changing linked bank details, it can still be bypassed.
Yeah.
It's a classic example of lateral movement just enabled by a simple reused password. It shows that a strong perimeter isn't enough. You need layered defense, including protecting the credentials themselves wherever they might be used.
And a robust, multi-layered defense is exactly what's needed. So if credential stuffing is the game, what's our defense at scale?
Yeah.
How do you effectively detect and preempt potentially millions of attempted logins using stolen credentials without overwhelming your systems?
Well, browser-level detection of credential stuffing becomes critical here, flagging not just the failed attempts, but even the successful ones that indicate reused credentials. That's a huge red flag.
Right, success can be suspicious too.
Absolutely. And upon detecting those replayed credentials, automated attacker lockout should kick in immediately, preventing further malicious activity. This also generates crucial forensic insights, stuff that can feed directly back into the bank's existing risk engine for ongoing prevention, sharpening its accuracy. And on the preemption side, persistent device fingerprinting is really key. It allows you to identify and block repeat attacks coming from those same compromised devices or attacker infrastructure.
Okay, so taking a step back, what does this all mean when we look at these incidents collectively? There are definitely clear patterns emerging from these, high-impact attacks, almost like a common DNA.
Absolutely. Across all these incidents, certain account takeover attack patterns really stand out. They reveal commonalities in the attacker's playbook. Phishing, especially in banking, it just remains the top entry point. Shows its enduring effectiveness despite all the awareness campaigns we run.
Still works.
It still works. Credential stuffing is increasingly automated. That means attackers can scale their efforts incredibly rapidly and efficiently, trying, countless stolen credential pairs per second. Mobile layer attacks like FluBot clearly exploit that inherent trust users place in their apps which often have deep access to device functions. And critically, that real-time fraud execution, like we saw with the Zelle scams, it leaves absolutely zero room for post-event remediation. The money's just gone too fast.
That really is the core challenge, isn't it? The sheer speed and the automation of these attacks demands a response that's just as fast, if not faster. Real time. Most of these high-impact bank account takeover frauds seem to share the same DNA. They rely either on phishing or credential reuse for that initial access. They move incredibly quickly towards monetization, and they actively exploit detection gaps in, let's say, traditional security systems.
And this highlights precisely why real-time protections operating at the browser level and the mobile layer aren't just, nice-to-haves. They're becoming essential. They're specifically designed to close these gaps before the damage occurs. It's all about prevention at the earliest possible stage. Shifting from that reactive posture where you're constantly cleaning up after a breach to a truly proactive one where ideally the breach never even fully materializes.
Okay, so that kind of leads us nicely into what we see as this critical framework for actually counteracting these threats, these 5 pillars of proactive protection. Let's just quickly solidify what those mean and how they really applied across the cases we just discussed.
Right. So the first pillar is detect. This is all about flagging those initial indicators, phishing sites, spoof domains, suspicious logins, credential stuffing attempts. We saw how this capability could have potentially caught the malicious activity right at the start in the OCBC and Chase cases. The second is protect. This involves actively stopping the attack while it's in session, using methods like injecting decoy credentials or enforcing device trust, blocking logins from known infected devices. This is absolutely critical for stopping attacks like Robinhood's credential reuse or FluBot's mobile malware. You prevent the login itself.
Then pillar 3 is disrupt. This is more active. Automating takedowns, disrupting those clone sites, maybe even running deception campaigns to waste attacker resources. That's that active counteroffensive. It was a particularly powerful tool highlighted in the Chase scenario. Imagine actively pulling down those clone login pages, rendering them useless. And pillar 4, reveal. This pillar identifies individual victims, enabling direct outreach before any financial loss happens.
Crucial.
Absolutely crucial for incidents like OCBC and the Zelle fraud, allowing banks to intervene, warn customers, potentially saving them from huge losses.
And finally, the fifth pillar, preempt. This is really about getting ahead of the curve. Predicting potential attacks using things like device fingerprinting and referral analysis, this capability would have been incredibly valuable across all the cases we've talked about today. Providing that crucial early warning system, allowing for proactive measures before an attack even fully launches or scales.
Yeah, these 5 pillars, They aren't just theoretical concepts, are they? They really represent a fundamental shift, moving from just reacting to breaches to proactively intervening across the entire attack lifecycle. It's about empowering financial institutions to not just detect, but to actively prevent and mitigate fraud before it hits the customers or, frankly, the bottom line. So for you, the CSOs listening in today, I think the takeaway here is pretty clear. The landscape of bank account takeover fraud is incredibly dynamic. It's constantly changing. But so are the solutions. It's not about fostering fear. It's about strategic, real-time empowerment. You really do have the power now to protect your customers and your institution more effectively than ever before.
Yeah, think about the implications of genuinely preventing fraud before it happens. Imagine having immediate visibility into suspicious activity as it unfolds, not hours later, and being able to actively disrupt attacks while they're in progress. It kind of raises an important question, doesn't it? What could a truly real-time, proactive security posture mean for your organization's resilience, and maybe just as importantly, for customer trust in this rapidly evolving threat landscape?
That's a great thought to chew on. And look, if you're looking for ways to implement these kinds of proactive strategies, or maybe just see these capabilities in action, we do invite you to explore how solutions like Memcyco can make a tangible difference in your security operations. You can book a demo, see firsthand how these real-time browser and mobile layer protections can really elevate your defenses. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the MemcycoFM show. We really hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights, maybe some things to consider for your own cybersecurity strategies. Until next time, stay secure.